Hello everyone, this is Pal Ponder on Weather. In this update, we're going to be tracking major Hurricane Fiona as well as two tropical systems out in the Atlantic, then multiple systems bringing heavier rainfall and some damaging winds along with some severe weather. Welcome back everyone, how's it going? This is your morning update. I appreciate all my followers out there and my new followers. So if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns on North America and the tropics, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and notification bell to get all my daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. So let's take a look at the overall water vapor imagery on the North American view. This morning, you can see this extremely dry air funneling into portions of Southern California, as well as a good chunk of the central U.S. and portions of the Southeast. There's a lot of dry air under that ridge of high pressure. While we had that system down here from Alaska dive down here in portions of Northern California that brought that much needed rain, and also Oregon, they're still going to be seeing some impacts from that system as that steady stream of moisture will be streaming across, going to be impacting portions of the upper Great Lakes as well as in portions of the Northeast with some severe storms. As all eyes out here towards major Hurricane Fiona. That's going to be a formidable Category 4 hurricane. We got two tropical systems out in the open waters of the Atlantic. So there's a lot happening and there's going to be a lot going on in the days ahead. So we're going to fine tune this detailed report and take a look at overall Hurricane Fiona, which is now a major hurricane of 115 miles an hour. It is moving north-northwest at 10 miles an hour. It pummeled portions of Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. It is now over the Turks and Caicos with those major hurricane force wind gusts. Now it's expected to creep up all the way to Category 4 major hurricane, 140 mile per hour storm, going to be dangerously close to Bermuda, and they've only been directly hit about 10 times since they've been tracking these storms. And then it could fishtail and bend back west and impact portions of New Brunswick as well as Nova Scotia and portions of Newfoundland in the days ahead. But also there is two tropical systems out in the open waters of the Atlantic. We talked about this yesterday when there wasn't really anything. Now this is really elevated to now a 50% chance of development of this formidable tropical wave that's going to be sending westbound. And then Fiona is going to be racing out into the open waters, going to be impacting portions of Nova Scotia. That's going to set the stage underneath for this really intensifying storm, going to be impacting portions of the Western Caribbean. While we also have another system out in the open waters of the Atlantic has a now 80% chance. So depends on which one name gets first. There's Gaston and then as well as Hermine for the next two storm systems that are on the table. So let's take a look closer to home and where that heavier rainfall is going to be for today. So we're still dealing with that upper level low that impacts portions of Northern California as well as Oregon. So we still are expecting some moderate to heavy rains for that region as the monsoon is still alive and prevalent with that marginal and even slight risk for excessive rainfall today in portions of Arizona, getting back into Mexico as well as Utah and Colorado later on this afternoon into the evening time frame. And then going into tomorrow, I think that actually intensifies even more, and they've upgraded this to a moderate risk for excessive rainfall right around the Four Corners regions. So definitely be on high alert. We could be looking at some flash flooding. So we're going to be eating away at this drought, and we have been with this active monsoon so far this season. But up to the north, we're still some welcome rains in portions of Northern California back into Oregon. That'll start swinging across into portions of Idaho as well as portions of Montana. And then we have a secondary short wave that's also going to be impacting portions of the Northeast and portions of the Mid-Atlantic back into Pennsylvania, upstate New York, back into Vermont, as well as going into New Hampshire. And then those storms could be on the severe side. In fact, going into your Wednesday timeframe, they have actually upgraded this to a slight risk for severe storms in portions of, say, Fort Wayne, back into Columbus, into portions of Cleveland, Ohio, up here into Rochester, back into Buffalo, into Watertown. Those storms could be packing a punch with some damaging winds of those 60 to 65 miles per hour, and also could be seeing some quarter-size hail with these thunderstorms as well. And then a little bit slighter amounts in portions of Indianapolis, heading back into Pittsburgh, and that'll swing across back into Burlington as this storm system will be moving across into your afternoon, into the early evening time frame on Wednesday. So overall, for the next 48 hours, here's where the heavier rains will be. We're still dealing with that stalled front around portions of Florida, so they're getting daily rain showers and thunderstorms impacting Florida. But well to the north, we have that system up here in Northern California, back into Oregon. So this is definitely much needed rain, still going to be impacting those areas. There's the monsoonal flow. That's why they've got the marginal and slight and even upgraded to a moderate risk for excessive rainfall in this neck of the woods, as well as those multiple short waves are going to be coming across, bringing some heavier rains to portions of Minnesota, back into Wisconsin, going into portions of Michigan, but especially as you head towards Pennsylvania and to upstate New York, you could be looking at some heavier rainfall over the next 2-day time span. So now what about Canada, right? So let's take you well to the north up here in Canada, because well to the north, we still dealing with underneath that storm system, but it is going to be impacting portions of Saskatchewan into Manitoba. That'll fishtail into portions of Ontario as well as Quebec with some moderate to rain showers for them, and that'll be on the day on Wednesday. But as we go through Saturday, things start to get interesting up here with what will still be Hurricane Fiona, and definitely a formidable storm. I mean, look at that. That's not a misprint, guys. This could be a dangerous storm. Swing it up. I mean, there are signs it could already approach category 4, and there's actually some indications, about a 30% probability it actually makes it up to a category 5 storm. So look at these tight isobars, as this will be impacting portions of New Brunswick, going back into Nova Scotia, and also portions of Newfoundland with some extremely heavy wind gusts, probably talking upwards to 100-mile-per-hour wind gusts coming up in portions of Saturday time frame. So definitely be on high alert if you live up here in this neck of the woods for this storm. That's going to be a very formidable storm, really leaving a name for itself and bringing high impacts, while portions of northern portions of British Columbia is going to be seeing some rain, because it's going to be, it's going to be snowing in portions of Alaska, but it's not terribly that cold, while a good chunk of this country is plenty warm. But here's the overall wind speed. So yeah, I mean, it could max out into the open waters of a formidable category 4 storm. Luckily, it will be weakening by the time it gets up to New Brunswick, but still a formidable wind gust. We could be looking at some hurricane force wind gust at least, and upwards to 100 miles an hour is definitely not out of the question as you get to your Saturday, heading into your Sunday time frame. So definitely be on high alert from this high impact event that's heading your way this weekend. So overall, your rain amounts for Canada, yeah, this steady stream of moisture is going to be streaming across into portions of Saskatchewan, Manitoba, back into Ontario, into portions of Quebec. That's where some of the heavier rains will be. And obviously where Fiona goes, that's where the heavier rains will be into portions of New Brunswick, as well as into Nova Scotia. But overall, the temperatures is actually plenty warm. There's really technically not much cold air to speak of. It's still pretty chilly in the portions of Alaska, and they have some snow in the lower regions. But overall, we've got well above average temperatures even for Canada. And underneath that, that's why we don't really have much snow to speak of. Any snow is just well to the north and all in the higher elevations up here in the mountains of Alaska. So there's still not really much cold air. We do get some cold shots, but there's no Arctic air or anything like that. So, but underneath that, as we head into Thursday, closer back into the States, we're still dealing with that monsoonal trough that's going to be coming through. So yes, more moderate rains and sometimes heavier rains at times, and that's why they upgraded to another slight risk for excessive rainfall back into portions of northern portion of Mexico and to Colorado. This is going to be on the day on your Thursday time frame. And then we also have still that other system that's going to be coming across that's finally left California. Now it'll be over portions of northern Idaho as well as into portions of Montana. But underneath that, we got record heat, right? So underneath that ridge of high pressure that's well to the south in the south and central and the southeast states, there's not much rain to speak of. So underneath that, the dry soil really starts to dry out and you heat up in a big way. So even though this is going into your first day of fall officially, we're talking potentially record heat in some of these areas where we could be topping the thermometer at 100 degrees in a good chunk of Texas, portions of Oklahoma, back into Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi. This is probably the last thing you want to see. But further to the north, hey, that's a cold front, right? We got a formidable, quick shot of colder air that's going to be moving through the U.S., from north to south, and eventually it's kind of saying to goodbye to this kind of mini heat wave that you're going to be dealing with. So now let's take out to the tropics, right? So there is Fiona, right? This is definitely a formidable storm. It's already a formidable storm. It already left a mark in portions of Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic. It's over Turks and Caicos right now, heading out of the open waters, getting dangerously close to the island of Bermuda, then heading northward to Brunswick as well as Nova Scotia. But underneath that, yeah, we're going to be looking at a formidable storm that could be sneaking underneath it. Could be Gaston or even Hermine, depends on which one gets named first of that one out in the open waters. That's not going to affect anybody. This is the one that has main concern. So I think as we get into Friday, it's just going to start having the beginning effects of, heavier rains into portions of Jamaica and back into the Cayman Islands. This one's going to miss Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. It's going to be south of you guys. But headed into Monday, that's when we could be looking at a really formidable storm really on the table, setting up over a good chunk of western the Caribbean, as a lot of dynamics are really coming together and a lot of model congruencies is really starting to come to fruition that this is going to be our next big storm for sure. But look to the north, right? So I showed you that cold front, right? So this is by Monday. This is the brown shaded area. That's the indicative of a cold front that's going to be swinging to the south. So now it all depends on the timing. So because right now it has a high probability on the latest track, this is going to be coming across the Lesser Antilles, going through into the Caribbean, going to be dangerously close to portions of Jamaica, back into the Cayman Islands. It's going to be really close to, say Cozumel, back into eastern portions of the Yucatan Peninsula. But then all bets are it's going to get into the Gulf of Mexico by the time we get into the latter portions of next week. And then it's all about the cold front, right? So this is on Monday. So we got that front that's going to be swinging through Texas, and it depends on the speed of the actual front and where this system will go eventually down the line. Of course, this is beyond 7 days now, right? So this is Tuesday. We got plenty of time to track this system, but hurricanes don't like cold air. So overall, this is the ensemble members of the latest European guidance has this again, taking it into the Western Caribbean. This is all members, right? So a lot of these members are taking it down to a 972, 964, plenty of them on the table showing a potential major hurricane going to be getting into the Gulf sometime 8-10 days from now. And then it depends, yes, it all depends on that steering of the cold front and how fast that cold front through, but all systems go points it to a good portions of Florida, as this will be feeling the effects of the cold front that's going to be swinging across. And the same deal with the overall GFS guidance as well, has this coming through portions of the Western Caribbean, potentially impacting eastern portions of the Yucatan, getting into the Gulf of Mexico, and then feeling the effects of that cold front would steer it in portions of towards Florida. But we got plenty of time to track this system, but this is definitely going to be our next big storm that's going to be on the table for next week. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Catch the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.